Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing really well. I just thought I would do a little test live. Last time, hello, hi, sorry, I can't read your name. Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Hi, everybody. Hi, local head. I hope you're doing really well. Just a live to see if the sound's okay. I've got some microphone headphones now. When I last tried to do the live, there were some real issues with the sound. If you can hear me loud and clear, would you mind just putting a yes, please, just to confirm that there is no problems with the sound? It's still crackling. Sound, yes. Okay, so most people are saying something wrong with the volume. Okay, I've got headphones in now. Most people are saying, okay, so it's a little bit, hold on. Is it the microphone's rubbing on something? I can hear you loud and clear, but crackling. That's interesting. I don't know whether they're only cheap headphones, so I don't know whether the headphones are crackling for whatever reason, but hopefully it is better than last time. Good. Okay, so that's better. That's really good. Slight crackling. That's weird. Hopefully it's not now. Okay, so is it because the microphone was maybe touching? Okay, good. Okay, so people are saying that's better. Brilliant. Okay. Whilst I'm on, I'll just give a very brief sort of update in relation to what I'm finding. It's pretty astounding. I mean, it's astounding, everybody. I'm doing a lot of research surrounding Harrison Ford. There's multiple connections to me now into Harrison Ford, going into Elvina, Princess Elvina, who was a very high member of the black nobility family, tying in with Rome, who left Rome in 1977 with Marcel Lefebvre to go to Geneva in Switzerland. There's connections into my father as well, who looks very, very similar, I believe, to Harrison Ford. So I'm considering that maybe my father was some sort of bloodline connection to Elvina, Princess Elvina of the black nobility family. My dad, I was led to believe, was adopted, and his adoptive family had been associated with the Kray twins, and the evidence is fairly strong that the Kray twins were being directed, linking into the mafia, including into the Italian mafia, tying in with the Vatican in relation to whatever's been going on in the world over the last however many decades, to somehow bring this to all some sort of conclusion. And it all links back in again from that to the ancient burial chambers and the church in Pembrokeshire in Wales, which links to Castell Henley, which is the an archaeological site that's been worked on for over 25 years. It's the only one in the United Kingdom that has an iron foundation with the roundhouses built on top of those foundations, and I suspect very much so that they are hiding the true history, very likely, of or evidence tying in with, shall we say, Christ, and possibly even how it links in with Adam and Eve. There's massive evidence supporting all of this now, and it's all coming to me as well, or my life, should I say, but specifically going to my former school, the 13th century Knights Templar location, which is called Temple Manor in Strood in Kent, which is right near where I was born, and that was, the land for that was purchased in 1159, I think, or 39, I can't remember the year, and then it was sold. They started then building the Temple Manor, I think it was in 1240, I haven't got it in front of me at the moment, and they've created a Companies House record surrounding Temple Manor, and it goes back into the Flemings, and also makes references back into the entertainment industry, which is so heavily connected into my family. It's not that my family have ever been actually knowingly involved in the entertainment industry, but my mum, for example, via her employee, links very quickly to Ridley Scott, a very well-known Hollywood director, movies such as Gladiator, and his brother Tony was born in Chatham, which is where I was born, and he committed suicide. I think it was in 2012, same year as the Olympics. And my dad's side connects to via his accountant, which was called Stephen Hills, to Hollywood Again, and they link into Eon Productions and other organisations around Hollywood. Eon Productions was the company that actually did the James Bond movies. Now, this is 3.5 hours away from where I was living in Dorset when I moved down to Dorset in 2006. No connections down there whatsoever, and yet all three of my families are connected to each other, and they never told me. So that means my family from Kent, which is my mum, my dad, and other family members that I have there. The family that I then married into, which I was led to believe was the Morton family in Dorset, and my brother-in-law's family, who has connections to Christchurch, which is in Dorset, right near Bournemouth, and also, but they live in Gloucestershire. So all connected, and they're all connected to Julian Assange, Donald Trump, links to the Russian government, into the royal family, into Jimmy Savile, the main Freemasons lodge. It's very, very clear, obvious now from the evidence, that there is an international government operation or project with me at the centre of it. It's, I don't say this without the evidence. As unbelievably crazy as that sounds, I've got all of the evidence to support that that is the case, and I'm now starting to build a picture as to very likely why that is, and how that ties in with Elvina, Princess Elvina, and who was married to a her name is Donna Elvina, and they're Donna Elvina Pallavicini, I think it is, if I'm pronouncing that right, and how that is then linking in with Rome, into the Vatican, and there's even a company called the Elvina Family Trust that I've now tied to my dog, believe it or not, my dog being taken from me during my arrest, and this is via an Oculus company coming in from the Munlochy Animal Kennel Company on the Black Isle near Inverness. And this then just goes into everything from there. It's really quite mind-blowing, everybody. So, yeah, I'm going to be showing all of the evidence anyway. Now, they are massively restricting everything I'm doing. As soon as I put the photographs of my father alongside me, along with Donna or Elvina Pallavicini, I think it is, and Harrison Ford, they literally restrict it massively. I've never had videos that haven't been removed restricted so much. So they were literally stopping people seeing it. So there was, now I've got around 8,000, just under 8,000 followers on my channel, and I think there was seven people that are able to see it. It's gone up a little bit now since I've exposed that they're suppressing it, but they are definitely suppressing it more than any other post I've ever put on my Telegram before, and that was showing, as I've said, the photographs of me with Elvina and my father and Harrison Ford. And it's not just the resemblances from those photographs, it's the evidence now that is supporting these connections. And also what's very interesting is, so I'll just look at the comments, so I'm not ignoring you, if you've got any questions. Hi everyone, hi, keep getting things popping up. Hi Kyle, I hope you're doing okay. Thank you very much for caring, for your comments, really appreciate it. Hi everyone else, hi Lanabella, I hope you're doing okay. My eyes are struggling a little bit. Good evening, hi Air Force Duck, I hope you're doing well. Hope you're all right. Thank you very much for your support. Just going through the comments, if I can read it. Oh, you're very kind, Taylor. Thank you so much for your wonderful comment. Really appreciate it. It means a lot. I'm just doing what needs to be done, everybody. They're clearly hiding huge evidence from humanity. Wilson and Cameron. Run, Link, Brookhaven. I'm really struggling with my eyes tonight. something German. Black Sun. Yeah, whilst you're mentioning Black Sun, the lengths they have gone to, okay, to try and deceive me is pretty huge in what I'm about to tell you. So there's a website called Scribd, Scribd. It's the only website that I've seen in the last 4 years where you can't actually copy and paste the information from their website. Okay, never seen that before anywhere else. Anyway, Contact A in Australia, who was, so many important connections were made with Contact A, okay, who I'm going to fully disclose. It's got to be full disclosure now in all of this. Nothing's going to be hidden now. They were providing incredible information. But more recently, what it included, a lot of it was through this Scribd website. And maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I researched the founders of the Scribd website, and it went to the NHS from 2 different areas of research. I think it was from either of the 2 founders. I can't remember. I haven't got it in front of me. But it went to the NHS, which means obviously it's potentially compromised and either false information or false information mixed with truth. So given the ability to deceive me potentially through that information, through the website and via Contact A, who was feeding me this information. Well, some of the information from that website was what led to Black Sun Limited, which went straight to Exbor Manor Freehold Limited. And this linked into information on the same article from Scribd, going back to 4,400 BC, tying in with vampirism and the Black Sun. I now suspect that was also staged, right, to make me believe in the other information that was then going to be fed to me, or what had been fed to me from other key bits of information that they were trying to deceive me about via Contact A. So Elvina Palavicini was one of those bits of information, because there was an article that claimed that she was a reincarnation of Queen Hepzibah, who links into the prophecy of the Antichrist, okay, and the beast from the sea. So, of course, initially I was thinking, well, this is very interesting. Wow, obviously need to look into this person. Didn't realise the significance of it until Contact A dropped herself in it, which means she dropped them in it, and I suspect her being positioned deliberately to feed me that information. That article was dated on the 15th of May 2025, okay, which is 10 days after the main Siemens company had changed its name for the first time since 1962. Now, Siemens is a very important company in this. Siemens is a company that was originally founded in 1847, 3 years after the Companies House Register began, and it was tied to the Nazi regime. And they were setting aside around 50 million, I think it was, a year in bribery money. Now, this company, obviously a massive technological company, if you're not aware of Siemens, a German company, of course, 1847 it was founded originally, but its main company was incorporated on Companies House in 1962. Didn't change its name until I'd exposed it, and I exposed it after the helicopter crash last year, where a Siemens CEO from Spain, I think it was, or Portugal, I can't remember, crashed in a helicopter, supposedly killing his 3 children and his wife in New York. I suspect those deaths didn't even happen. I suspect that was a complete lie, possibly to try and get other people within Siemens that were getting worried and wanted to speak out about what they were part of, to try and make them believe that their lives may have been taken to stop them speaking out. Anyway, after that helicopter crash occurred, I then delved into Siemens more significantly and found that one of the directors was linked to the Edge Foundation. Well, the Edge Foundation had been funded by Jeffrey Epstein. And there was loads of other connections via the Siemens company. So, of course, I then publicly exposed all of that extra evidence going through Siemens. Within, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks, they changed its name for the first time, okay, which was on the 5th of May 2025. Okay, so the helicopter crash was in April, I believe, and the actual helicopter crash was within days. I think it was within 2 or 3 days. I can't remember. I haven't got it in front of me. Of the Pope dying on the same day that Klaus Schwab resigned as the chair of the World Economic Forum, both 88 years old. Anyway, it changed its name for the first time on the 5th of May 2025 after I'd exposed it. They then changed that date of the name change later to the 1st of May. All right, so they backdated it. And that, I suspect, is because on the 5th of May 2025, Donald Trump had come out and said that Alcatraz was reopening to the public. It's a long story, but that company, Siemens, ties into the fake moon landing and the Alcatraz escapees appearing to have been playing the part of the 3 astronauts in relation to the moon landing in 1969. All right, I've got evidence to support this. So anyway, originally, as I said, it changed its name on the 5th of May. This article was produced on the 15th of May 2025 that was saying Elvina Pallavicini was the Antichrist, reincarnation of. So they were making a point of that person being the Antichrist. Now, of course, why would I want to be associated with somebody who is potentially the Antichrist or could be considered evil? Anyway, what happened when I went into the article the other day, trying to show it on a live stream, they had then removed Elvina Pallavicini's name from that article. But I've secured evidence proving that they've removed it from that article. So this was after I was disclosing in private messages to Contact A the fact that I believe they were setting up Elvina to be evil when she wasn't. They then removed the name from that article, everybody. And I've got proof proving that. So it looks as though Contact A was positioned to feed me this specific information about Elvina. Now, why was she so important, everybody? Why would they want me to think she may be evil, and therefore why would I want to associate with her? Well, I suspect that information was a lie. And I suspect, from the evidence that I've now found that Elvina Pallavicini went with Marcel Lefebvre, left the Vatican, realising the corrupted infiltration of the Vatican, went to Geneva, and they were trying to stop the trajectory towards the end of all of creation, potentially, or a potentially hell on earth situation moving forward in all of this. There's loads more evidence I've got, but that is now what seems to have been the case. Now, of course, this now highlights Elvina Pallavicini to me, doesn't it? All right, and it now seems the reason why is because I am connected, it looks like, via the research, and it's pretty overwhelming evidence now, to Elvina Pallavicini and the links that she appears to have to Christ. And this all links in to the, as I've said, the evidence surrounding Pembrokeshire in Wales and the historical buildings, the church with the bleeding yew tree, which leads to Castell Henley, as I've said. And in the church there, I can't remember the name of the church, but you've got the bleeding yew tree, like I said, and it's also makes a reference to the true cross. There is also information of the Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail, and I've secured evidence where they're trying to hide the connections to Wales in relation to those artefacts. There's also evidence that St David's of St David's Cathedral in Pembrokeshire in Wales went to Jerusalem and had taken some sort of stone, potentially in relation to the Ark of the Covenant. So we have to consider that may have been the Ten Commandments and took them to Wales. This would make complete sense to me because for some reason, somehow, moral conscience has withstood the test of time and the infiltration of the world and the criminal network is in place, and the moral conscience, it looks like, may have been ingrained into the stone within the Ten Commandments, and that has how it may have stood the test of time. And this then ties into my theory and my evidence supporting that they tried to remove moral conscience from humanity, from the system, infiltrated the Christian network, deceived everybody through that, integrated the blood sacrifice within it, and created a deception surrounding the crucifixion to set up the ability to say that all future sins were forgiven, to ignore moral conscience, the second gift by the Creator after life, greatest gift, to protect all of humanity. This set the ability up for their criminal network to be in place around the world. And this all goes back into, I believe, the persecution of Christ at the Roman period, and how that all ties into this with Augustus Octavian, and who took over the wealth, inherited the wealth of Julius Caesar when he was assassinated in 44 BC, which was 2,000 years to the day when Operation Overlord began, which was the preparation for the D-Day landings in 1944. And the YMCA was founded originally in 1844, which was the same year that the Companies House Records began, 100 years to the very day before the actual D-Day landings in Normandy in France, which I suspect refers to Doomsday. And this would be explain why I am linked to Doomsday via Deborah Fleming, who's linked to the Doomsday Cult, and Julian Assange. All three of my families are connected to the Doomsday Cult. The Doomsday Cult is linked to the Association of Chief Police Officers of the United Kingdom, which was originally founded in 1948, the year after the Doomsday Clock, and the same year that the Israel-Arab War occurred, and also the same year that the NHS was formed. This all ties in with the Balfour Declaration of 1917 involving the Rothschilds, which then ties back in, if you go back further, to 1870, the infiltration of the Vatican, followed by the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini in 1871. Albert Pike being a high-level occultist and Freemason who, it appears, was linked to demonic practices and devil worshipping, according to the research, which ties into the Companies House Records, and set out a 3 World War deception to destroy Christianity, destroy the Muslim faith, destroy atheism, and bring about the pure doctrine of Lucifer on earth. And it looks as though I very nearly fell into the trap to actually support them in their mission to destroy Christianity. Of course, what I have to consider is that they knew who I was, and it was all deliberate for me to actually bring humanity and everybody back to at least moral conscience as a foundation which has been ingrained through the embodiment of Christ, I believe, and through the Christian faith that has been manipulated and has deceived all of humanity via that. I think Christ's conscience is the key, and the system has been used to remove that from humanity, separate you from your true potential, which is possible through the consciousness as the foundation, which has been removed through irrationality by the system, removing clarity, separating moral conscience, and therefore separating you from the Creator. This combined with them creating most of the world's problems, which makes you think that it is the Creator, to make you believe that the Creator is behind all of this evil. Why would the Creator allow such evil on earth? Well, what if those behind the system are actually behind it all, including the cancer, including the awful things that happen on earth, the wars, the conflicts, the terrorism, the crimes against the children, the blood, even the weather manipulation, and even potentially the earthquakes, to make you separate from the Creator, which actually would fulfill everybody's lives completely, protect you all from yourself, and protect humanity from you. The greatest gift second greatest gift that humanity has ever been given: moral conscience in a rational state of mind. In other words, love thy neighbour, treat everyone how you want to be treated. And most people, of course, do that when they're thinking rationally. Most people are good people, no matter what colour their skin is, no matter what faith they are, because they understand that they don't want to be stolen from, they do not want to be hurt, they do not want to be victimised, and generally they therefore do not do that to anybody else. This bridges all of humanity, it unites all of humanity, and it appears that it has stood the test of time through the Christian faith, I suppose, but not in the way that it's been deceived, through the ingrained Ten Commandments, but also ingrained within humanity's DNA to be like that. But it is, as I've said, when we are not thinking clearly or rationally, that we separate from that and we do things wrong. And that actually makes us feel guilty, and that therefore destroys us internally without us even realising. And of course, it destroys or at least affects everyone around us. We're just going to have a look at the comments. Every time you show the evidence, the sound goes bad. That is all the proof we need. Thanks, Carl. Yeah, everything. I've got the evidence of everything. Wait until you see the evidence I've got now. It's pretty mind-blowing, everybody. Now I'm having to expand my mind a little bit more than I normally would. And yesterday, this is very early days for me, so I'm not saying anything is confirmed, but I saw some videos in relation to reflections of double suns, and also there was talk of rainbows. And I woke up this morning and I thought, I need to consider the firmament a little bit more now. Now, I want to say a massive apology to anyone that I've ever said, look, I'm not going to look into that. I don't, it's not something I need to look into. I think I'm at the stage now where, and I had a sign today that I need to look at it, that I have started, I need to start looking into the firmament. And I've actually looked into it quite significantly today, because when I woke up, I thought maybe I need to start looking into it just in case I find some evidence in relation to the firmament. And when I went to do my research, there was a picture on the wall and it just literally looks like the firmament. I mean, and I've been sitting by this picture for a very long time over the last few weeks doing some research, and that was a sign, and it was like, okay, I need to obviously look at this. So today I've done a bit of research on it, and so far I cannot ignore what I'm finding. I'm not saying that there is a firmament and that there is any sort of dome-like structure above us, but I will be talking about it a lot soon, and I will be showing the evidence. I can't ignore what I am finding in relation to it. And many of you will know that apparently, but again, this is potentially corrupted information, so I need to be very careful moving forward in this. The scripture states that there is a firmament. However, I've got to be careful that the scripture hasn't been manipulated for us to believe that that's the case. So early days in relation to that, but it is very interesting what I'm finding indeed. If you want a copy of Gary's document, go to my Telegram channel. You can go to, it hasn't got any of this that I'm telling you about at the moment, but you can get an earlier version of it on my Telegram channel, which is Gary for Freedom on my Telegram channel. Gary for Freedom. If you just scroll up a little bit on the Telegram channel, look for the document. It's got a number at the beginning, which I think is 050626, I think. The main evidential research document. Please download that and have a look at it. I will be, at some point, getting this bigger document, which is having some massive subjects in it with all of the evidence, publicising it as soon as I can. But it's important that I'm getting them to see the evidence that I've got as well. Yes, I've been living in a tent. I'm just looking at the comments now. Yeah, I've been in a tent since the 1st of October last year. So I was in the Scottish Highlands in the winter with no heating appliances, no cooking appliances. I've been in a tent ever since. I don't really have a choice, because I know how massive the evidence is. Well, I do have a choice, but I must protect the evidence, and that evidence needs to be protected through me, particularly now with who it appears I'm possibly going to be in all of this. So yes, I've been in a tent since the 1st of October. Thank you very much for your comment. Is that Sally? Thank you, Sally. The evidence, yeah, you like I've said, Ketarella, you can go onto my Telegram channel and get the document, but it won't have all of this stuff that I'm talking about. I still am building the evidence at the moment on that. Hi, Emma. Great to have you here. I hope you're doing well. Someone's put, they hide it claiming mental wealth. Yes, they're going to struggle with that with me, because I've been through the prison system over this completely unlawful arrest, all to do with what I'm exposing. And I haven't been sectioned under the Mental Health Act. A lot of the things you're seeing are lies. People will not be being sectioned for Facebook posts and stuff like that. It's to make you believe that you can't post evidence and information, right? You've all got to expand your minds now, all right? It's very, very clear that there's massive deception going on Earth. Huge deception, far beyond anything I ever thought I would be considering and anything I thought I'd be talking about. And this has had to be a really gradual process for me. I've needed to find the evidence that as I've gone along to help me expand my mind, and actually then get me to look into the next subject, and then realise, okay, well, if they're lying about this and I've got the evidence proving that, well, what if they're lying about that? Let's have a look at that. Oh, yes. Okay, now I've got to consider they're lying. You know, it's had to be a gradual process for me. And that's very important, because I'm doing it through an evidential-based understanding, which means I can wake the world up through that evidence as well, you see, because it's waking me up through that evidence. And remember, the evidence is verifiable. And it seems they've left the evidence for a very select number of people to find it, potentially only me, who is not corrupted by any of it, to actually find all of the evidence to prove to humanity what has been going on through that evidence. The veil is lifting. Follow the money. Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. Is that Kyle? Kyle Haynes? Kill? Is that K-H-Y-L? Kyle? Kill? Sorry, I'm probably pronouncing that very wrong. I do apologise. Hi, Welsh Warrior. I hope you're doing okay. Yeah, I haven't been on very long. I'm not going to stay very long, because it's getting on a bit, and what I'm doing is trying to get this evidence all together, and what I'm going to probably do is put screenshots on my TikTok, okay, of the evidence, because they are just shutting me down in every other way I try and do it. Even that, they're probably going to try and shut it down or suppress it. But I will try getting the screenshots of the evidence out on here, on my other TikTok channel, which is Gary for Freedom. So this is Gary for Freedom 2. The other one's just Gary for Freedom. Please go and join everything you can. They are just kicking people off, actually. It's probably not a lot of point you joining. You just have to keep checking it. So my Telegram is Gary for Freedom. My Facebook is Gary for Freedom. My YouTube's Gary for Freedom as well. But they are kicking people off of my subscriptions constantly. My other live TikTok, I can't even do lives. They've frozen the lives. They took one of my videos off. When I tried reposting one of these lives, they took it straight off. They're just trying to suppress everything. Hi, Alison. I hope you're doing well. Alison Caswell, thank you very much for joining me. Really appreciate it. I hope you're doing really well. Follow the money. Yeah, absolutely. It's international government fraud, everybody. It's worth multi-trillions of pounds. Motivates the deception, but it's also linked to the sex industry and the drug trafficking trade. So there's many people that are compromised either through money, sex, drugs, through cults, through the blood of the children, through doomsday cults, etc., by religions, etc. Someone's put, I've read about and seen the 3 Alcatraz escapees. Yeah, I've got the evidence now, which is supporting that. So the Siemens company was started 2 weeks to the day, either before or after, I can't remember, the 3 escapees escaped. Okay, one of them was born within, I think it's within 3 months of Buzz Aldrin. It was the only one that was alive. And when you research Buzz Aldrin, it links to me and the research surrounding me, surround my life in Maidstone, which makes connections into the McAlpine family. The McAlpine family were behind the Shard building. They actually built the Shard, and the McAlpine family are linked to Wimborne, it looks like, from the evidence and the crimes against the children. And Wimborne is where the Flemings were living, which were the ones that initiated my removal from Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began. And also in Wimborne is where Tim Berners-Lee was living, and Tim Berners-Lee was the person who created the World Wide Web for CERN. Okay, Tim Berners-Lee worked for CERN, in other words, the Large Hadron Collider, the Collider technology, in 1980. He then started creating the World Wide Web in 1989, and the first web page went live in 1991. He was living in Wimborne, and my wife's friend, who is, forgotten her name now, Leanne Witcher, or Leanne Hawksworth. Her former name was Witcher. She works for Siemens, which is the company we've just been speaking about, and she lives in Wimborne. And all of these people, they may be good people that are just not able to come forward and actually expose anything because they're too scared. Well, I'm sorry, you get in a tent and you do what I've done. If you really care about children and you care about humanity and you care about creation, then you do what is necessary. And if necessary, you go and stay in a tent and you live on with holes in the side of your tent with mice trying to eat all your food every day, which is what I'm doing at the moment, right? And I've been doing that since October. That's what you do when there's creation at risk. And I mean, you need to be willing to lay your life on the line, quite literally. Hi, Brian. I hope you're doing okay. Thanks very much for joining. I hope you're okay. Thank you very much. Hi, Nikki Easdale, is it? Gary, with several Y's on the end. Oh, thank you very much for your comment. Is that 7H or ZH? Thank you very much. Always trust your gut. Yeah, absolutely. Over the last few years, I've had to follow my instinct multiple times, and I've got 50 police reports that are around 50 completely being ignored. The MPs are completely ignoring all of my emails with irrefutable evidence. Okay, this includes my own MPs, Tom Hayes, who's the Eastcliff Bournemouth MP, which is where Jimmy Savile also lived. Okay, in a building, or he had a flat in a building called Elizabeth Court, which is connected to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began. And they staged my introduction to that building, which meant they wanted me to be connected into Jimmy Savile. And they even took me up, it looks like, into his flat. And somebody that's linked into all of this told me, before I even knew about it, that I didn't even know until, was it this year? It might even be this year. I think it was this year. Didn't even know that Jimmy Savile lived in Bournemouth. Someone connected to the international government fraud told me that he lived there, and then I found out, and it looks like they actually took me up into his flat, which they claimed they then owned. This was somebody in Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. So there's people within the system, it appears, are trying to facilitate me to identify who I am in all of this and to expose everything. And I actually believe that Operation Yewtree was never about Jimmy Savile, and that it's actually about me, because it has led to the bleeding yew tree in this church in Wales, which looks like it's going to be linking to the truth surrounding everything, everybody. So yeah, it's massive. Freemasons, yeah, I've never been a Freemason. Massively implicated in this. I've spoken to a few Freemasons. I didn't know until 2023 that my wife's father, my father-in-law, I don't know if we're still married or not. I don't know. I don't think we ever were married because of the forgery behind the system. I don't think anyone's been married, to be honest with you. This is the sort of mockery that they've been doing against everybody. Nobody actually owns any property because of the forgery behind it, which means they don't as well. So they claim to own everything. They're trying to take over the whole world, it looks like, which it says that in the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini, but I actually own nothing legally because of the forgery behind it. So yeah, in my view, all Freemasons need to be removed from their position of influence around the world. The research surrounding the Freemasons links to Lucifer, and it connects into information of the Oculus Omni, and the Oculus links into the eye, and the all-seeing eye, which was on the $1 bill at the top of the pyramid, and it actually goes back, the Oculus, within the Pantheon building within Rome, which goes back over 2,000 years, and that is a massive circular hole called the Oculus in the roof where the rain just comes through, and on the 21st of April each year the sun shines through that onto the entrance, I think, within there. So when the Roman emperors walked through the door, they had the light on them, and the 21st of April is the year of the foundation of Rome in 643 BC. And the 21st of April is also supposedly the Queen Elizabeth II's birthday in 1926, I think, or 1929, I can't remember. And yeah, this is all relevant now. All the timings are becoming connected into all of this. And the Oculus was the eye to the heavens, humanity's eye to the heaven, or portal to the heavens. And that ties in to around the time of the persecution of Christ, when you had Julius Caesar just prior to that, and then Augustus Octavius after that as well. And it looks as though he was a massive problem according to the research. He was tied into the horse equestrian side of the Roman Empire, and it looks as though he was massively corrupted, moving the Roman Empire forward, very likely, I suspect, involved in the assassination of Julius Caesar somehow. As I said, he was assassinated according to the information. It may not be, none of it may be true. It may all have been set up as a deception to all, but let's just presume that some of that information is real. You know, that's what they're telling us. But it may all have been a massive deception to lead to this moment in time that we're in now. But let's just say at the moment, from the information, that some of what they put is true. So according to that, Augustus Octavius took over from Julius Caesar. Of course, Julius Caesar having the same initials as Jesus Christ. That was in 44 BC that he was assassinated, and then Christ was born around 4 to 6 BC, and then in 7 AD, which is 007, everybody. Yep, the year 7 AD, 007, he was 13. And of course, the number 13 is incredibly relevant in relation to everything that's going on at the moment. We've already just mentioned the Oculus, okay, and the all-seeing eye being on the $1 bill. Well, there's 13s all over that $1 bill. You've got 13 stars, you've got 13 steps in the pyramid. 13 becomes relevant to Friday the 13th in 1307, when the Grand Master of the Knights Templar appears to have been captured and tortured for 7 days for not disclosing the truth about the hidden bloodline of Christ, taken by the Knights Templar, and potentially the skull and bones of Mary Magdalene and Christ hidden for centuries until this very time that we're living in now. And this is where the skull and crossbones comes in. They were the first ones, or one of the first ones, to use the skull and crossbones flag, and the skull and crossbones organisation links to 322, the number, and 3, is it 23 or is it 233? Yeah, it's 322, isn't it? Which is BBC backwards. Hold on, I'm getting mixed up with the numbers. I haven't got it in front of me. 322, or is it 233? I think it's 322, isn't it? It relates to BBC anyway. And when I mean BBC, Gematrian number, so A being 1, B being 2, C being 3, etc. From that, you can work out the Gematrian number system surrounding it. They are behind it all. Yep, the Freemasons are right the way through my research, everybody. Massively linked to it. And, you know, I've got a document that says that most of them don't actually realise they're being guided by Lucifer and linking in with the devil. I mean, let's face it, if you've got a secret system, people should know. I mean, maybe they don't. in my mind, it's very clear. Secrecy is the opposite of transparency, and transparency in truth is the creator. So if you're agreeing to be part of a secret society where you are privileged above others because of that secrecy, then you're, by the very definition, going against the creator. Well, by going against moral conscience and going against the creator, that is evil by its very definition. Okay, by its very, very definition, it's the opposite, isn't it, of moral conscience, the opposite of truth, transparency, secrecy, lies, deception, selfishness. And this is where the system is so very, very wrong, because what it's enabled them to do is have a very small number of people that are corrupted by evil controlling the world through secret societies, when the world should be managed through transparency and incentivized choice, with a system that protects the masses from any leaders. And that is my goal, everybody, to get the world to a position where the masses are protected from the leaders via the right transparent system. The world has never ever had that, and now I believe we're on the verge of doing it, and that will mean heaven on earth. All right, because you will then have no disparity between the rich and poor. You will have fairness, integrity, equality. It will not be a problem, reaction, solution criminal network. So you will generally want to resolve the problems completely, not maintain the problems because you're gaining and exploiting through those problems by the solution that you create for those problems. All right, this system, secret society system, motivates the problems on the earth. Okay, they're behind most of the problems, everybody. It's very, very obvious from the research now, and this is why all terrorist incidents that I've researched so far are connected to the same companies, everybody. Right, many of the parents, I say many, some of the parents of the high-profile missing children are actually linked to the international government fraud. We have to consider that some children have never actually been missing, right? Because what this does is this actually allows, through those investigations, to launder money, exploit and victimize humanity. Of course, it instills fear. I'm not saying no children have gone missing, but I'm saying high-profile children may not have gone missing, because I've actually found evidence of parents being connected to the same criminal network. In some case, you've got the actual offender linked to the parents, linked to the police, linked to the criminal network. Problem, reaction, solution, criminal network. All the time they can create a problem, they can then exploit humanity through those problems. Alison's put, Gary, I think you're spot on. Our reality is a total illusion of the truth. Absolutely, Alison, it's been completely inverted, everybody. Completely inverted as a complete and utter mockery and deception. Like I've said, a problem, reaction, solution, criminal network. Separate you from moral conscience, from the creator. That makes you more vulnerable. That enables them to suppress you, because you then live in fear and anxiety. You also end up destroying yourself, okay, by not having the protection through a faith. And I'm not saying you have to believe in something. Of course, you have free will, but I can tell you now, when you do have faith, it absolutely fulfills you and gives you incredible empowerment. Okay, because then you don't fear. Then you feel strong about yourself, because you have the moral conscience guiding you, which means you then don't feel the guilt, you see, because you realize, or I realize, it's not about control, it's about protection through that faith of me from myself and protecting others from me, vice versa. All right, love thy neighbor, treat everyone how you would want to be treated in every single way. Every single thing that you do in your life, try and think, how could it affect people further down the line? Of course we've all gone wrong in this, but the system has deliberately facilitated that psychological slip away from moral conscience, like I've said, through the irrationality, through the lack of clarity, whether it be alcohol, drugs, you're all too tired, whether you're having relationship problems because of the system that causes that, whether the education is causing problems for your children deliberately, which then obviously causes problems within the families. Obviously, you've got the evidence of them potentially taking the children, and the drugs and the alcohol can be used as a manipulative way to also get to those children, okay, through the social care system, through the police, etc. We can't forget the overwhelming that I've got in relation to the blood of the children in all of this. It's massive. I do suspect, though, that some more recent events have possibly been staged specifically for me to identify the link to the international government fraud and the blood of the children. I suspect that some information or some incidents have been leaked deliberately to me, so I, because of who I am very likely in all of this, to be able to expose the entire thing, going back in history, linking into religion, identifying the deception within the religious organisations as well, to actually bring everybody back to truth and literally bring heaven on earth through a new system. Now, what I would say, because it's coming up, isn't it? Was it 4 or 5 days away now? The 12th of August. Obviously, if we are in a firmament, okay, then the evidence surrounding the 12th of August becomes a different potential theory in this. And if you're not aware of the 12th of August, there was a suggestion of a conspiracy theory that gravity may be lost for 7 seconds after 2 black holes were seen colliding, and that rippled through space-time, hitting Earth, cancelling out the gravity on Earth, potentially creating a rapture event, which is mentioned, or a lot of Christians speak about a rapture where humans, or certain humans, will ascend, literally lift from the earth and be saved from earth in a tribulation event. Now, if there is a firmament, that changes everything, doesn't it, in relation to that? So I need to try and get the evidence out about the firmament that I've got in the next few days, because of course, if they can create or falsify a loss of gravity, then that determines what you do during that situation. If it was, for example, a true creator rapture event, then of course you would want to let yourself go, because it says that the rapture will save those humans from a tribulation event on Earth, which could be horrendous, which would involve earthquakes, tsunamis, potentially, and all sorts. But if it is created by them, then of course you would want to hang on and not let yourself lift into the air, because what we have to consider is, could it therefore be them trying to get rid of Christians? Remember, we've got the Albert Pike letter that says to destroy Christianity. So if you have a load of Christian people that are saying, I can't wait for the rapture, all right, and it's a false event to then lift you into the air, and then suddenly the gravity comes back, or if you don't want to call it gravity, whatever keeps your feet on the ground, you then suddenly come crashing to the ground, then of course that could be a way to get rid of Christians, couldn't it? So this is something I've got to be very, very careful about moving forward in the next 3 or 4 days, as to what I'm going to be advising people to do in all of this. And that really can be determined through whether I suspect or believe there is a firmament, or we are on a globe like we have been led to believe, with air, and therefore we are susceptible to, for example, a ripple coming through space from 2 black holes or an asteroid. Now I've got very significant evidence that suggest, and I mean I'm pretty certain of it, that all extinction level events that we've been told about are a lie. All right, I've got a lot of evidence now to support that. I don't believe the dinosaurs ever existed, which means obviously the asteroid hitting the Earth, wiping them out, was a lie. I've got loads of evidence that there's actually information that I've secured that proves they removed names and dates from articles about extinction level events. Okay, now, so of course, if that's a lie, the other thing that made me think today is I literally typed in just what is it that makes a rainbow round or curved. And it gave an explanation that it's because of the angle of the light hitting the raindrops always has a 42-degree angle or something like that. I haven't got it in front of me. But one of the big things, which I can't believe that anyway, for starters, I struggle. Why would the light always hit it at that same angle? That just does not make sense. But it also said that the reason you don't see a full circle is because the rainbow, the base of the rainbow goes behind the horizon. Well, I've actually seen recently as well, the rainbows coming down to the ground prior to the horizon. So that is not true. That is not true. Now, what is the shape of a rainbow? Well, it's an archway, isn't it? So I'm now having to seriously consider, and forgive me anyone else that's tried to get me to look at this over the last few months, and I haven't, because for me it's had to be a gradual awakening from me through that evidence. So please forgive me if I've dismissed you, or I don't think I've actually said I don't believe it. I've just said, look, I haven't got the evidence at the moment, but I am open-minded, and I've got to be careful that it isn't a trap to get people to fall into something that can then be used to discredit them. So it's had to be a gradual, evidence building element for me. But I know that rainbows, I've seen a rainbow come down to the ground prior to that horizon. So that is a lie if that information that I researched today is what they are claiming. And of course it's an arch shape, so we have to consider, well, if there is a firmament above us, well, that could create an arch shape reflection or light effect down on Earth. Anyway, I'm not committing at the moment to what I think on that, but it is definitely something that has to be considered in all of this. Hi Carla, thanks very much. Thanks very much. Yeah, you'll be very pleased. I thought you'd be pleased. I subscribed to your YouTube earlier actually. I'm sorry I haven't done it before. Something popped up. I saw something about your YouTube, so I've now subscribed. Yeah, I thought you might like me talking about that. I've seen a double moon before. One of them was inverted, a reflection. Interesting, Kyle. Hi Wendy, thank you very much for your comment, really appreciate it, you're very kind. Someone's put the moon is a base for UFOs, someone's put. I've got to be very careful about the UFO side of things, very careful, because what I've got to be careful of is I don't give them a way out of this, you see. I don't give them an explanation for some of the things that we don't want them to have explanations for, you see. And I have got quite a lot of evidence supporting that is a deception. But I'm very open-minded. If you're looking for the truth, Gary, the firmament is very interesting. Thank you, local head. Yeah, what I found today, it didn't take me long actually. I looked at it for about an hour and a half, I think, and I was just like, wow, okay. Yeah, can't ignore that with what I'm finding. Dome. Donald Trump talking about domes a lot. You noticed that recently, Golden Dome, the timing around that, you'll see when I do the evidence. The Iron Dome as well over Israel becomes relevant. Started in 2006, the year that I moved from Christchurch to Dorset, the same year that the Da Vinci Code movie came out, which is about the bloodline of Christ. Every angle I've come in so far, it's tying back into my life. I always think the arc rainbow is a good sign of the firmament, but that doesn't make it true, someone says. Thank you very much. If we all got together as a collective and think the same thing at the same time, we could make a change. Thanks, Shelby. Well, my strategy still, it's still there. I still think it's the way to go. We need to arrest everybody. We need to remove their influence over humanity. It doesn't seem they're going to go voluntarily. They are going to be facing, if I am who it looks as though I am, I'm pretty sure they're going to be facing eternal consequences. They've had 4 years to do the right thing in all of this, and it looks as though they're not going to be doing the right thing anytime soon. So they need to be removed peacefully, legally, through citizens' arrests. Hi, my Venture Life. Hope you're doing okay. Thanks very much for joining me. Psalms 19:1. The heavens declared the glory of God, and the firmament showed his handiwork. Thank you very much, Carla. Yeah, I've looked into the scripture side of things today. There's 9 mentions of the firmament within Genesis, within the first bit that I've looked at. And I've got all of that so far, all documented. However, the Bible page or website that is from is corrupted by the fraud. So I need to be very, very careful. The Trinity gods is idolatry, breaking the 3 commandment, finished by death in public. Someone's put, the Trinity gods is idolatry, breaking the first 3 commandment, punished by death in public. Thank you. Keep at it, Gary. You could change the world with your evidence. Thank you very much, Laura. Absolutely no doubt it's going to change the world, everybody. I'm almost, well, it has to. It is groundbreaking. You know, this is... it has to change it changes everything, because it links everything together. And it provides the motive for the lies as well. Am I hiding? Look, if I am who it looks like I am, and if I'm exposing the entire world system, including international drug trafficking and the crimes against children, you know, I haven't just got to worry about the people within the system, have I? As in the police, the intelligence agencies, the military, etc. I've got to worry about a lot of other people as well. Disgruntled drug traffickers, drug users, disgruntled company owners, some people involved in the sex trade. You know, I still go into public places, but to base myself in a building would be very unwise, particularly with who I may be in all of this. I must stay protected if I am who it looks as though I am in all of this. I must come out the other side of this to ensure that I can guarantee, or at least facilitate, a transitional system to bring heaven on earth. Thank you very much, Laura, for your comment. Thank you, True Cell 2. Respect you, Gary. You're fighting for real truth. You were a cop. Look what truth done to you. It's weird why. I don't know why some of the comments are like greyed out, like not as bright white for some reason. Or is it every other one? No, it's not every other one. That's weird. Some people's are like greyed. They're just not as easy to read. I've been going on for centuries, their lies. Oh, yeah. Jane, this goes back to the beginning of creation, according to all of my research. We're talking small number of people exploiting most people, going right back. Now it changes everybody. This evidence changes it. All right, well, it should do. It should do. It's overwhelming now. And there's no reason why we can't have a transitional system to bring integrity, fairness, transparency for all of humanity now. And that is what I am aiming for. Very simply done, very quickly. As an example, you have a local, not government, local leadership account, okay, for your community. For example, where you see the council tax going in, a collective, a lump sum collectively going in every 6 months, for example. So you'd have a first account for the leaders to see the personal transactions, and then you would have a second account where the collective amount goes in with reference to expenditure coming out, i.e. police this month, fire brigade this month, bin collection this month, and everybody has the ability to log on and see that information. All right, that means the leaders will not want to use that money and corrupt that money, because they're aware they've got however many thousand people, and this could be then used not just for local public spending money, but in other financial institutions. They've hidden the money. This is what they have done. They have hidden it. So you need to make it transparent. Okay, that's how this is resolved. Transparency, but also full accountability and liability. They have removed accountability and liability through the company's house forgery by allowing duplication of records, non-verification of names and addresses, and the forgery of the incorporation documents and the register. All right, which means they've literally been able to get away with literally murder for a very, very long time. Mass murder. Very likely mass murder. And this is how they've been doing it, through what I'm exposing. Keep going on for years. People who knew just didn't know how to get around it. Yeah, I don't think anyone really has known. I mean, we've all known something's been wrong. You know, certainly anyone that's been innocent in this, you know, even within your heart, within your soul, you've known something's wrong in your own lives personally, but you haven't figured out why this or what it is. This is it. Make no mistake, everybody. It's the key to everything. It's the key of David, I believe. It's the key to heaven on earth. It's the key to all of your fulfillments in life, your removal of fear of death, your contentment, your happiness, your zest for life, your motivation, your everything. It is the key, everyone. Make no mistake about it. This is it. This is it. What an incredible time to be alive, everyone. What an incredible time to be alive. It really is. Yep, the children must be saved. Okay, it's massively connected into the blood of the children. Massively. We cannot allow children to be degraded, to be tortured, to be exploited anymore. Yeah, thank you, local head. Yeah, I'll get to sleep soon. Need to follow you. You haven't come up for so long and not in my follows anymore. Yeah, please follow me. They are restricting my numbers massively. You're going to have to just keep searching, I think. I've actually seen where my numbers just go down. As I'm looking at the screen, like on my videos, it's got a certain amount of views and then the numbers go down. And people that are following me, they just physically go down. So they're reducing and getting rid of people. They're stopping people from able to see the evidence because I'm literally exposing everything. The entire world's system, individuals behind it. They know it. This is why Klaus Schwab announced that he was stepping back as the chair within 3 days of my sending my evidence to the World Economic Forum in 2024. And then he actually resigned on the same day that the Pope died in 2025. Klaus Schwab was the chair of the World Economic Forum. Could you please tell what you are talking about? Just came in. Yep, so a system of international government fraud that deliberately exploits and victimises most of humanity through the company's house registration system. And now it is exposing, with the evidence, the lies that have been going back centuries, all of humanity. It really is that massive. All tied into the Vatican, into the blood of the children, international conflicts, terrorism, drug trafficking. Pretty much all of the world's problems because of this, everyone. I'm telling you, we are literally on the cusp of heaven on earth. Yep, it's literally, someone's put the devil's playground. It has literally been completely inverted, right? You've all been exploited. You've all been, many of you haven't even known, like I said a minute ago, you've known in your heart and in your mind that there has been something wrong. You know, I did all my life. I was like, something's not right with what's going on, and you know, you could just feel it and see it, and whether it was things on the news that you're seeing. This is it, everybody. I promise you. I promise you, this is it. The world is seriously messed up, man. Yes, it is, Craig. It is. But we've all been party to it, but most of us aren't complicit to the point of those that are instrumental in running the system, because you haven't realised what's actually making you do things wrong that you're doing in your life. And when you realise they're behind it all, and they've coerced you, and they've manipulated you, and they've exploited you, and you haven't even realised how they've done it, okay? And you've actually done it to yourselves through not realising how they're doing it, and they've made you believe that the things you do are normal and acceptable in your life, but inside your soul and your mind, you've known that it's not been right, whether that be you know, some of the things you might look at in your life, some of the things you might say or do to your body, some of the things you might consume, all right, and you don't realise how it has a detrimental effect on you because it's been normalised through the system. But now you're starting to see through this evidence how it actually corrupts you internally. But again, you still might not know, and you just think, it's okay, it's, you know, it doesn't matter. But it destroys you internally without you even realising, whether that's through guilt, whether that's through you feeling suppressed physically, psychologically. It affects you without you even knowing, right? And how many of you, really, let's face it, how many of you, because I did, how many of you would just think, well, what's it all about? What is it I'm actually doing? You know, I'm working 9 to 5, if not longer, 5, 6, 7 days a week. You know, what's this all about? The system is set up to make you unfulfilled. Ultimately, what you all want is fulfillment, isn't it? Contentment in your life, all right? This system removes the contentment. It removes the fulfillment from you because of all of the reasons I've explained about. And now we know why that is and how it's been working. And the fact it's linked into Satanism. It's linked into Satanism, everybody. I've got the evidence. There's literally the Satanic Temple United Kingdom. There's the Church of Satan tying into this. This links in with the Christian Network as well. Okay? We now know. So all we've got to do is literally turn it back round. Okay, as above, so below, flip it upside down, invert it back, moral conscience, truth, transparency as the foundation, not lies, not deception, not secret societies, and obviously get back the accountability and liability which they've removed, and there you go, everybody, you're pretty much there with a few iron creases to iron out along the way. And what we have to think is about the future generations. What we need to stop is future generations having to live through this again. It may be that myself, I'm 49 now. I might not quite get to see the complete fruition of turning this around, but I hope I can see at least the start of that transition. Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you for your comments. Really appreciate it. Is it Craig? Yeah, thank you, Craig. Thank you very much, Local Head. You're very kind for your comment. Thank you. Abbas. Hi, Gary. Good to see you, brother. Thank you very much, Abbas. Appreciate it. What can we do, though? It may be through my evidence alone and through my exposure, single-handedly, I may change everything forever. Possibly. I'm a bit worried about the 12th. I don't know if anything's going to happen or if not. I suspect it's more of a symbolic, timely event to act as a catalyst towards the truth, because it really has escalated my evidence and really got me to find a lot more out about myself and a lot more about the evidence. But what can you do? I still think my strategy needs to stay, which is citizens' arrests. As soon as some of those citizens' arrests are attempted, peaceful, legally, no physical contact whatsoever, literally just saying a few words to the solicitors, as soon as that starts happening, I think we will start noticing a change. Vampirism, yeah, there is definitely links to, all the way through my research, to vampirism. I don't mean people with fangs and wings, but the consumption and the transfusion of blood from the young into the old, and also organ harvesting. Very likely caused due to a fear of death and a lack of faith. We must get humanity back into having faith, because without faith, sorry, let me reword that. It would be ideal. It would be ideal if everybody had a belief in something after death, because then they become fulfilled. And you may disagree, and that's fine, and I completely understand. You might not want to agree with that, but it will have an effect on the fear of death, as in it should reduce the fear of death. If you truly believe that something happens after your body does not work here on earth, then of course you're not going to fear and be so anxious about it as you would be if you thought there was nothing afterwards. So, and of course everybody on earth can't be immortal, all right? Not only would it not work physically, because we would just literally have, we'd never be able to have any offspring, would we? So you'd have to stop the offspring, because otherwise the world, as we know it at the moment, would not be able to literally maintain a massive population that was continually immortal. But also, to be immortal, it's a mockery to the creator, isn't it? Because what that's saying is we're too scared of what we don't understand, and because we can't see it, therefore we're too scared of it, and we've got to avoid that at all costs. Now, from the evidence, it looks like they've worked out a way to exploit children through their blood and innocence through their organs to extend life. Well, we cannot do that. And let's face it, if you were to now let's just say you were given a substance, okay, that you were told would extend your life indefinitely, as in beyond what would normally happen to you, how do we know that's not going to be linked into the blood of the children? How do we know it's not going to be linked into the blood of the children? Now, of course, generally people don't want to die. People don't want to die. And I understand that. And I'm not saying we give up on life, but we need to remove the fear of death. I suspect that's very important. And I can't see how you can do that without the faith. But I actually think that will come naturally, even to those that think, no, there's no way. I'd never believe there's a creator, it's all just chance and we came from nothing. What about evolution? Well, I've got evidence that evolution is linked to Satanism. So there's a motive there for the evolution. There's a deception to separate you from the creator again through Satanism. It's all there in the documents, in the research. And even those that don't think they want to believe, what I think, when the moral conscience is the foundation through the system, they will actually start naturally believing anyway that there's a creator, and they will just feel fulfilled through that. But of course, they don't have to. They have a choice, obviously. Give us a 5-point plan of action. Okay, 5-point plan of action. Share the evidence, right? Share my videos, share the evidence. Send it to all your councillors, police, to your service providers, utility providers, any solicitors, because the whole system's centralised. So what you need to do is get the evidence out to all of those centralised organisations, making sure they know they're fully exposed to the blood of the children, right? Because what you'll do is you'll start finding they won't want to work for those organisations. So they'll start shutting down their organisations. And I'm already seeing it. I mean, thanks very much to the likes of Lisa and others. I'm finding that companies are now dropping left, right and centre. You're talking companies that have been around for centuries, and they're now closing because of the exposure of this fraud. So it is just naturally having that effect through my exposure. But let's escalate that, because what we need to do is we need to compel the government to tell the truth. Once we have a reset to the truth, then we have the transition into a new system. Of course, it becomes dangerous because they don't want to be exposed and they don't want to face the consequences. This is where the alien deception potentially comes into this, to make you believe they were aliens and they've left the earth and therefore they are no longer here. So you don't need to worry anymore. And then they'll go and change their identities, change their appearance, go and hide in tunnels or whatever until the day comes, generations in the future, and it all starts over again. All right. I suspect they will still be here on Earth. I suspect they are trying to use the alien deception to say that they have gone from Earth. And this tells you how they are now panicking, because that is pretty much their only way out, other than the other option is that they were trying to create wormholes to turn back time so that they never actually committed the blood against the children, because it's very likely that they're now realising what they've been doing is wrong over the centuries, and then possibly realising that they face eternal judgment and their souls are at stake. Well, in their mind, maybe they think, well, if we go back in time and we never have done that, then surely our souls are then safe. Doesn't work like that. The creator will, I believe, understand that. The creator, I believe, is outside of time, space, and matter, and our understanding. So it won't matter if they go back in time, because they'll still be judged, I believe, eternally through the what I do believe they can be saved, or there's a chance they can be saved spiritually, is through full disclosure of the truth, full repentance, and a commitment to change collectively to help bring a new system on earth. There's possibly a chance that they won't face as bigger consequences eternally as they will if they don't do that. And that's what I've been trying to get them to do for the last 4 years, but it doesn't seems that they're going to go for it. So now I think they're seeing the only way out they can see is the alien deception, but I'm not falling for that either. So you come back to truth, repentance, commitment to change. They might go and hide in some tunnel system. I suspect if they do that, whether it's to avoid a false natural apocalypse event that's been publicised by people within the system, within their secret society networks, we have to consider that there's good people in the system, all right, that actually want this to all end against the children. They could be setting up others within the system involved in the blood of the children in a judgment event, all right, by falsifying a natural apocalyptic deception, promising them a salvation within a tunnel system, and then flooding that tunnel system as a judgment against them. That's what could be going on in all of this. My advice is nobody get in those tunnel systems. Everybody, full disclosure of the truth, full repentance, and a commitment to change. If this was all pure evil within the system, I wouldn't be alive. I would have been taken out a long time ago. All right, I'm putting a document together with pictures of people's faces in that document, linking to the skinning of children alive and the blood of children. If anyone was going to be taken out in this, it would be me, and I haven't been. So either they can't get rid of me because of who I am, or there's people within the system protecting me from others within the system because they know who I am, potentially. Some of them know who I am, and they know that what I'm doing is right, or they haven't actually got rid of other people that we thought they've got rid of. The evidence is starting to suggest it's option 1 and potentially option 2, that I am going to be somebody relevant in this, and people within the system know that I'm somebody relevant within this, so could very well be protecting me, as well as others knowing they can't do anything to me, potentially because of who I am, because the repercussions would be too big eternally for anyone that did that. Just reading the comments. I'm going to head off, actually. It's getting quite late now. Yes, Twisted. So we do it ourselves, so they bypass any accountability. Yeah, that someone said the other day, said, Gary, what if they're allowing you to get your evidence out and actually giving you the evidence so that you put it out to everybody, tell them to do a strategy, they don't do the strategy, and then that then justifies them getting rid of you all. This is something I've thought about. Well, the only way you can really avoid that, if that is the case, is you need to follow my strategy. Whichever way you look at this, you need to follow my strategy. You can't just rely on me. It's possible that my evidence and my exposure alone and what I do may change it all, but you can't be relying on that. You can't be relying on that. I'm giving you the evidence to empower you, and I'm giving you the strategy based on that evidence. So my advice is you follow that strategy. Have you heard anything back about my complaint? No, nothing whatsoever. No. Last thing, I made a phone call on the 12th of May to the police. I've had a missed call once, but I even put I only want to be emailed. No emails, nothing, no response whatsoever. This is 4 years of complaints now. And well, within the first few months, there was a few responses. This included them inadvertently confirming they were allowing the banks to produce forged bank documents. 2 emails I had inadvertently confirming that by my own police force. That was a massive turning point, because I realised, okay, the police are allowing the banks to produce forged bank documents. We're talking mass fraud. because it's not just going to be the company that I was part of that they were doing it through. All right, and then I found that the company I was part of was linked to thousands, well, hundreds, possibly thousands of other real estate companies. Over £167,000 just through that company, my company alone, plus loads of other exploitation. So you're talking probably well over that. I would think over the years, that was a 7-year period of accounts that I had. Over £167,000 not going into the account, but then you had the insurance exploitation, which was multiple thousands of pounds every year. So a vast amount of money. Times that by 10, I mean, it would have been, this has been going on, it's all centralised, it's right around the world. They've owned most of the blocks of flats, most of the buildings, most of the leases. All right, so you're talking multi-trillions upon trillions of pounds over the last few decades. Trillions and trillions and trillions, everybody. I'm not even exaggerating. What are you all on about? Hopefully that makes sense. I've explained it. International government fraud into the crimes against the children, international conflicts, terrorism, into the prophecies, into the Vatican, and exposing the entire world system and all of the lies that have been going on against us for a very long time. Wonder is to worry without pain. Wonder is to worry without pain. NASA called it Operation Anchor. Yes, it was Project Anchor. NASA have never actually said that was a real event. They've always said it was a hoax. The first time that they discovered two black holes colliding, so they're saying, was on the 14th of September 2015. The 14th of September is the date of birth of Contact A in Australia that I now believe has been positioned. Contact A, that's the date of birth of her. And that is also the date of birth. That date is also when the company changed names that links to the 13th century Knights Templar location and my former school and Waterman Offshore Company. The same date of birth as Contact A. This is why I suspect, or had suspected, and have to still consider, that she is the symbolism, at least, she may not even realise it, the symbolism of the Antichrist. If that makes sense, right? Because I could have been considered the Antichrist, because what I'm saying is, I don't believe everything that was said about Christ, and there's a deception within Christ. But I didn't turn away from Christ. I brought everybody, and am trying to bring everybody back to Christ's conscience in Christ, but understanding the deception through Christianity and the crucifixion and the false, I believe, implementation of forgiving for future sins and disregarding moral conscience. So in theory, am I the Antichrist? But not if Christ was inverted in the beginning. I actually become, what's the opposite of Antichrist? That's right. But she becomes, by opposing me, the Antichrist. See how that's worked? Right? It looks as though, from the evidence, that both Contact A and myself are bloodline Christ and Lucifer. In other words, we both had the potential to become Christ or Antichrist. But Antichrist is an inversion if the Christ has been deception. If the Christ has been inverted and it has been a deception. But if I am guiding people back to Christ through the truth of Christ, then I become not Antichrist. And anyone that then opposes me becomes potentially Antichrist if I am bloodline Christ and potentially connected to a return somehow through that bloodline, or at least a prelude to a return. Not too sure about that at the moment, but I suspect Contact A was set up either symbolically as the Antichrist, or she actually inadvertently became the Antichrist by opposing me, feeding me false information to a false narrative to turn me away from the truth, which I then worked out the deception through it looks like so far, and now I've actually establish that as being critical evidence, tying into further supportive evidence of the bloodline of Christ and how that links in with Rome and with my family and everything else. Just having a look at my eyes are really struggling. Death is not the end. Yeah, absolutely. I don't believe it is, local head. I also suspect that's what's happened, and I've got some evidence to support this, that those linked to the satanic element within the system have convinced others within the system that there is no creator. There was an experiment called I've forgotten the name of it now. It ties into my evidence. And that experiment was then, it started in, I think it was the 1950s. Is it Miller? Yuri Miller? I can't remember. Anyway, they then restarted it in 2007. Well, this is the year that they introduced me to Exborn Manor, and the same year that Madeleine McCann went missing, introduced me to my wife, all staged, and they started Exborn Manor, Freehold Limited. And they restarted this experiment. It's very possible that people within the system have been deceived by those linking in with Satanism to believe that there is no creator, which of course has then instilled the fear in them, which has made them want to live longer, which has potentially led to the blood of the children in this. But, anyone in their right mind with moral conscience, all right, and understanding the importance of moral conscience, would know that you do not, under any circumstances, victimize children, whether it be to extend your life through their blood or whatever. You just do not do it. And that in itself, of course, is a mockery, as I've said, against the Creator, and it's in multiple ways, because it is going directly against moral conscience, which tells you you love your neighbour, or you treat everybody how you want to be treated, and therefore you wouldn't want yourself to be slaughtered and harmed for your blood, and therefore you would not do that to anybody else, and certainly not children. Don't worry about the 12, someone said. They haven't taken into account plasma and proton forces, electromagnetic hologram. Because we live forever and ever physically, Simon Lawrence has put. Someone's put the soul lives on. Do you like GABA? I'm not too sure what GABA is. Is that AI? I don't know if that's actually AI, is it? Stephen Walker says hi. Why doesn't that name ring a bell? Stephen Walker. Who's Stephen Walker? Sorry if I should know who that is. It doesn't ring a bell. I feel my children's future more than death. Excellent. Well, Sally, it's the right way of thinking. All right, if we're not going to be willing to put ourselves on the line for children in creation, where there may not even be a future for anybody, including you, what are we going to be willing to put ourselves on the line for, everybody? What are we going to be willing to take chances for if it's not children and the future of everybody, which is what the evidence suggests is at risk? So there is no, there's no other option. Really, all right. Now, if you're not willing to put yourself on the line for those two things, then be prepared to face a judgment, right, by the Creator, because you become the problem. You choose to become the problem. If you're aware of a system that's facilitating the crimes against the children and leading to the end of all of destruction, and you just sit back and do nothing and decide to just carry on as normal, all right, instead of getting in a tent or whatever and actually saying, do you know what? I'm hitting this head on. I'm exposing this. I'm doing what is necessary to save the children, to save creation. And I'll just put up with a bit of hardship for a period of time, or I'll come out of my comfort zone and read a few lines to a solicitor. I mean, if people can't do that in this situation, there's no helping those people. I'm sorry. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to anybody, but if people aren't willing to go in video themselves saying some words to a solicitor, don't even have to video themselves, video the people they're talking to, then there isn't very much hope for humanity. Do I like football? This is AI asking these questions. I'll answer it. I've never been a fan of football, as in a football supporter, but I used to like playing it when I was younger, and even now, you know, I'd probably have a kick around, but never been into football and stuff like that. I've never been like a typical bloke, if you know what I mean. Like, never been into football, never been a massive heavy drinker. I had a period of sort of drinking quite a lot, but it's never been something that's really appealed to me. But I've always liked sport, squash, love squash. Haven't played for a while, but love squash, love bike riding, love kayaking, walking. I did buy, I wish I'd done more of it. I don't know if anyone's heard of Via Ferrata. If you ever get a chance to do it, wow. So you basically buy this harness and you have 2 clip-on carabiners on your belt, and you just follow a cable along a mountain. You clip yourself on, and then when you get to the next junction, unclip one, put it on the other side, get the other one, clip it on there, and you just follow it, and you have like metal ladders, rope bridges. It's just amazing, especially if you go to the Alps and do it. But I'm not the best with heights, so I haven't done a lot of the I haven't done high courses, but I even bought a kite surfing kit once as well, which is where you have a kite on a board pulling. Yeah, I'm going to ignore AI. They've asked if I like fish and chips. Sure do. People don't want to die. We have to learn the language that we live ever and ever and ever. Simon Lawrence. It's very likely that we should be living longer than we're supposed to. I would think that they have suppressed our lifespan by the stuff that we eat and all the pharmaceuticals, etc. They did that experiment with rats and blood transfusions, and it's proven it keeps them living longer. Yes, Carl. There's articles on it that actually almost, I think I even say they're practically immortal now and able to create immortality. It doesn't take rocket science to work out, if you continuously change your blood over every now and then and you swap organs, then of course you'll be able to extend life. But you know, it's what evidence? Overwhelming, irrefutable, verifiable evidence of international government fraud, where they are literally, it's obvious, you can see it very quickly, forging company and corporations, forging the registration, all the documents, and no verification. Do you remember the day you actually became enlightened? Well, that's a good question. Rumpel, I'm not even going to say your name. When did I come enlightened? Okay, that's a good question. Well, I suppose spiritually I've always known something, but I haven't really been really close to believing in a creator really until I think when my dad died, I found that really hard, and that sort of turned me towards the creator a bit. But only in the last sort of 4 years since I've been doing this, and then as I've gone on, I've just got closer and closer. But in terms of when did I about the fraud, I mean, there's been several big moments. One of them was the as I said, the emails inadvertently confirming that the police were allowing the banks to produce the forged bank documents. The fact that the Home Office was trying to get the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners Office to deal with it, even though I had evidence proving that they were corrupted by the fraud. And then finding that the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners was actually linked to Jimmy Savile. Pretty big moment that is. Okay, so this is obviously a massive police operation and cover-up in relation to the crimes against humanity. But now, you know, with this, like I've been saying, understanding that they've staged my introduction to Exbourne Manor and therefore the connection to Jimmy Savile, and now me having identified the bleeding yew tree in Wales through a trail of evidence leading to, it appears certainly appears to be connections into the possible truth of Christ. I now have to consider that a lot of it was deliberately, like I said, I don't believe Operation Yewtree was ever about Jimmy Savile now. I now suspect it was about me, and me finding out the truth of the entire history of Earth, going back into Wales, into Christ, linking into Adam and Eve, the Ark of the Covenant, and how that links into the fraud, how it provided the explanation for the entire historical corruption going back into Rome and even before, how that links in with the blood of the children into Christianity and the persecution of Christ and all other religions. It's just, or a lot of the other religions, just truly mind-blowing. So there's been several milestone points, I suppose, when I first started having my visions or things that were happening to me that I couldn't explain. One of them you could have said maybe it's a coincidence, but the first big one was when I was looking at the Companies House records doing the research for the World Trade Center disaster in 2023. And I first of all looked at what were all the companies that were in that building at the time of its collapse, or in those buildings. And then I started going in through the Companies House records and researching all of the companies, just seeing where I could find connections in, securing the evidence through the screenshots initially. And as I was doing this, I was like, wow, this is massive, what I'm finding. Obviously, it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger since then. But when I was going through it, I was thinking, wow, why am I finding this? What is this? Where is this going to lead? This is huge, what I'm finding. And then I was thinking, okay, well, how is this linking in with Scripture somehow? Is this going to be something to do with Scripture? And then I was thinking, what if it's to do with fire and brimstone? Because at this point, I'm starting to find, okay, there's clearly something going on with the World Trade Center disaster in what I'm finding. And I was thinking, okay, I'm putting all of my family at risk at this point. I didn't know they were all, or most of them were implicated at this point. And I was thinking, what is this all about? And the Bible talks about fire and brimstone. And what does that mean? Is there going to be a nuclear war? Is there going to be an asteroid? Why fire and brimstone? What is this about? And as I was thinking it, this is an honest truth, I turned the page and there was the word brimstone in an address on a company incorporation document. I hadn't seen that on any other company, and I'd researched probably hundreds at this point of companies, and literally there was the word brimstone as I was thinking fire and brimstone, and I was blown away. And it was on the incorporation document for the it was actually an address of Brimstone Close in Kent, and it was on the incorporation for what's the company, D&D Law Agency Services Limited, which links directly to Tommy Robinson. And I didn't know at the point, but that didn't know at the time, but that makes the connection Doomsday Cult tying in with Julian Assange and all three of my families. And at that point, when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's a sign. That's got to mean something. And I actually came to the conclusion of, okay, well, I'm going to have faith that that was a sign from the Creator. And at this point, I wasn't even really, believing in the Creator. But I said, okay, I'm going to trust that that's a sign. And I'm going to trust that that means no matter what, I must keep pursuing what I'm identifying through this evidence. And I started to realise from that point, and of course, as I then continued, it was just like, wow, oh my goodness me, this is just unbelievable what I was finding continuously, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now I've got links which appears to link me to the bloodline of Christ, into Rome, into ancient burial chambers in Wales, Pembrokeshire, which is where my nan was born, tying into the Ark of the Covenant, references to the Holy Grail, to Adam and Eve. It doesn't get any bigger, everybody. And now I'm talking about the firmament. So Very hard to comprehend, everybody. But it's there. It's there. It's all there with the evidence all being proven. Every other day I think, is this a dream? No, it's not. Got the evidence, there it is. People are verifying it, people are seeing it. People are, police are ignoring it. MPs are ignoring it. Tom Hayes, my own MP for Eastcliff area in Bournemouth, hasn't even responded to one of the emails. Massively implicated through the Company's House records. That's the same location where Jimmy Savile's former property was on the Eastcliff. They even created a company called Eastcliff Project Limited. Remember, Elon Musk is linked to me multiple times, to my families as well. When I say to me, I mean going back into the connections to Exbourne Manor and into my former school as well. He links immediately to Stephen Hawkins and a company called Tech UK, which ties into the MP for the area, former MP Tobias Elwood, before Tom Hayes, for Eastcliff, where Exbourne Manor is and where Jimmy Savile's former property is. And the other MP for the joint property is Christopher Chope. Christopher Chope's now not responding. He was positioned as the MP in 2025, I believe, for that area, which is Burton area in Christchurch, where I have a joint property with my wife. And it turns out that he married somebody linked to Wimborne Minster, which is in Bournemouth. That's the church in Wimborne, which links to the Doomsday Cult. So they positioned him, and he was involved in a government debate on the 15th of July 2022 within Parliament in relation to the culling of dolphins. This was 2 days after Anthony Roberts had resigned from Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, and they set up a mass culling of dolphins in the Faroe Islands. 1,400 dolphins and whales were culled. Then they had this parliamentary debate, and in that parliamentary debate involving Christopher Chope and others, they basically massively, because you can read, if you're not already aware, you can go in and look at some parliamentary debates, and you can see what each person was saying. And they were all in favour of going against the dolphin cullings and the whale cullings. Well, of course, the timing of it, along with the evidence that's been acquired, and how that ties in to the Dolphin Square child abuse scandal, which links to aristocratic families, Jimmy Savile, members of Parliament, a building or area group of buildings in London, Dolphin Square. It tells us that they were panicking and that they needed to backtrack and make it appear as though they were very much against the dolphin culling, because it looks as though the dolphin culling was mirroring what they were doing to the children. I'm sorry to say. The dolphins in the Faroe Islands actually began in Norway with the King of Norway in the 9th century. And what they do is they beach the whales and dolphins, and if they can't get them, they use boats initially, bang these poles in the water to scare them, to get them to go onto the beach. And if they haven't got them on beached up properly, then they use a blunt hook in their air hole to drag them onto the beach, or whatever you call it, where they are. And then you might want to close your ears, but it's important we understand the evidence and how this possibly relates to the children. So you might not want to listen to what I'm about to tell you. So the evidence says that they cut the dolphins and the whales behind their dorsal fin and sever the spinal cord, which paralyzes them, of course. And sometimes they're left in agony for 13 minutes. It specifically mentions 13 minutes. I suspect that's deliberate, because the 13 number, as I've said, is very relevant, how that ties in with Christ. It was 13 in 007, 7 AD. And the 13 number, as I've said, becomes relevant to the bloodline of Christ and everything else. And then they slice the whales' throats and they let them bleed out and bleed to death. So for 13 minutes, these poor animals, according to the information, are suffering. And I'm sorry to say, it's very likely that's what they've been doing to the children. There's a lot of evidence in relation to the skinning of the children, the blood of the children. You've got the Pizzagate scandal tying in with this. I hope it's not true. But if we look at the deception within Christianity and what I've been talking about, so the Holy Communion, which talks about drinking the wine as the representing the blood of Christ, and the bread as the body of Christ. Why would you eat the body and drink the blood of somebody that you hold dear? It's an absolute mockery. Absolute mockery. Well, if you can't drink the actual blood of Christ as a satanic mockery and eat his body, what's the next thing? The closest thing to Christ? The children. The most innocent of all humans. And the next thing to that would probably be dolphins. So I suspect that's why they've chosen the dolphins and why that is so important. And they realised, oh dear, what if Gary finds out about this? We need to backtrack. We need to make it very clear we're against the culling of the dolphins. But it actually just gave me more evidence. It just made me be able to expose them even more. And that just goes to show you who I'm very likely going to be in this. Every single time they have tried to cover their tracks, I've just been able to expose them even more, everybody. In a way, just a massive way. And I think they're realising now how serious trouble they're in. And they are, make no mistake. These people are in serious, serious trouble. And I mean eternally. But I believe, as I've said, that there can be some element of salvation for them through the full repentance, full disclosure of the truth, to reset humanity and the entire system for truth, and a commitment to change the system to protect humanity, creation and the children moving forward. If they don't want to do that, there's no helping them. They are going to face eternal problems and very likely major consequences here on earth as well, which, I've thought very carefully about what that should be, and I need to be very that's something on my own personal view I need to think about very, very, very carefully in this. It's an amazing story I heard about Christ the other day, an analogy of, and you've probably seen it, but it's the first time I'd seen it. And it said, someone asked the question, why did Christ die? Why did he need to die? Why didn't God just create another Christ and bring another son to earth or whatever? And one of the other man, he replies, this is my favourite thing to answer. And he tells a story of a king that lived once upon a time, like a fictional story. And he was Something's going wrong with my cheap headphones. Something's going wrong with my headphones. I might have to take them back. They're only cheapy ones. Oh, it keeps coming up saying something on the screen about my microphone. Just having a look at the... Oh, right, you can hear me. You can hear me, okay. So I'm just going to the latest comments. So, yeah, this king was the most loving and just king. But he knew that there had to be some consequences for people doing things wrong. And he set a decree that if anybody steals from the king's treasury, then they'll receive 10 lashes. And the theft continued. There was theft happening and it continued. So then he set another decree that there'll be 20 lashes once it's discovered who's stealing, and it continued. And then he said 30 lashes, and it continued, and then 40 lashes. But 40 lashes was a death penalty. Anyway, it turned out that it was the king's daughter that had been stealing from the treasury. So the king, obviously the kingdom wondered what the king would do in this situation. Would he forgive his daughter, or would he carry out the punishment that he had promised would take place? And he made the decision that there must be the punishment as said, no matter who it was. And they set a big event up to publicly lash the daughter of the king. And as they went to strike her back for the first time, the king stopped it. And he went over and he took his shirt off of his back and he covered the body of his daughter and said, continue. And obviously the executioner, or the person doing the lashing, was reluctant, and the king ordered him to do so and gave 40 lashes and killed the king. And that was the story of the explanation as to what Christ did by giving his life, because he knew that the he had to be just, had to be a punishment, but he also needed to be loving, and also, what was the other wording? I can't remember the other bit. But he had to justify the what was the other bit? Someone might know. Yeah, I'm getting very tired. But so the king gave his life for his daughter to pay the penalty for that crime, and that was what Christ did on the crucifixion. But I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think these people have to become the sacrifice, if you like, through truth. And there needs to be a system, because otherwise, how do you ensure that there is going to be a new system in place to prevent this from ever happening again? And that's why I think this return, or when the return happens, or however this plays out and this concludes, is going to be very different than what happened previously, because we're at a point now where the system has to be changed forever, and that change in the system will bring heaven on earth. And that's why a sacrifice of whoever is key in this is not going to be the conclusion to save them from it again. All right, I don't believe that's going to be the case. Anyway, I'm going to go. I'm getting very tired. If everybody takes accountability for themselves, that is the system, the truth, someone has put. Christ was killed by the Romans, someone said. Satan is keeping you away from reading Quran too much. It was the same for me. The Quran. I'm not reading any scriptures, okay? I'm so glad I haven't, because it has kept me neutral and it has kept me being guided internally. Anybody can believe that what they want to believe. I don't believe everybody has to believe the same thing or have the same faith. People don't have to believe in anything if they don't want to. I think they're missing out if they don't, but that's their decision. I think a lot of the time it's a choice, and you can choose not to believe something when you don't have an answer, or you can choose to believe something when you don't have an answer, that is conclusive. For me, I look at everything, if it's a coincidence, and I think, actually, do you know what? I believe that's the creator. And actually, you find that happens then more, and you find things then start going in your favour once you start choosing to accept that it's the creator's intervention. And I've just found that more and more and more over the last few months. The more I've actually got to a point where it's like, well, could this be that or that? And I'm going, okay, and then I'm longer for that. And I think it's a choice. I think, and that is free will. That is free will. That's what we're given, isn't it? We're given that choice. And if we continuously make a choice not to believe, then that would be the bad choice that we make in our lives. Because it's true that we need to make the choice to believe, to have eternal salvation, then that's what they're choosing to miss out on. Especially if we know that that's possible, and we still get to a point where, okay, well, nobody can explain how we're living here on this earth at this moment in time. Scientists can't explain how something came from nothing. And if you continuously choose, for example, you might say, well, yeah, I'd rather believe that something came from nothing everything came from nothing and it's all chance, rather than everything came from something. Well, that doesn't really make sense to me. I'd rather believe that something, everything came from something rather than just suddenly appearing as nothing. It just doesn't make sense, but that's free will. But if we continuously, when we get to points like that, and we still choose not to believe in a creator, and by believing it protects us, because it does, like, let's just, before I go, this is a very important point. This isn't about control. Right, this is about protection, what I'm about to tell you. If when we're alone and we don't think anybody's watching us, we don't therefore think there's a consequence in what we're doing, then we have a there's a potential risk that we slip into doing something that we know to be wrong because we think we can get away with it. Whatever that may be. It might not be a theft, but it may be just something that you believe is morally wrong, but you choose to do it because you don't believe anybody's watching. All right? By choosing to do what you know to be morally wrong, you're actually going against your ingrained, inbuilt protection system for yourself. All right? So to believe in a creator, and that actually you are being, I won't say watched, but you are being guided, whether you're alone or not, and that then preventing you from going against your moral conscience, you protect yourself, because you then become empowered. Incredibly empowering. It's not controlling. It's not controlling, because it's protecting you. Because by its very nature, you end up destroying yourself by going against your moral conscience. In that moment, when you think nobody's watching you, so it's not going to harm anybody, but you know it's wrong, you actually destroy your soul and you destroy yourself. And you may not even realise it, but internally, it devalues you in self. You feel guilt, even if you don't physically acknowledge it. Psychologically, your body will feel guilt. And if you continuously do those things that you know to be morally wrong, then ultimately you're just going to be losing out on yourself. So it's about I believe, about protection, not control, and fulfillment, contentment. You can still live your life. You can still have fun. You can still, do things that you would want to do. But as long as you have that moral understanding of what's right and wrong, and you don't try your very best at every opportunity to not do what is wrong, then you'll be okay. But the faith instills that in you more, I believe. And this is why I believe, a lot of people say, well, it's all just within you. The creator's just within. The trouble is, if you do that and you believe you are the creator and there's no external side of it, then of course what I've just told you doesn't become a protection, because you just think nobody's there to guide you. It's just you, and therefore there's a risk that you slip into this situation I've just been speaking about. And it is not, as I said, it's not about control. It's literally about an empowering protection that actually brings you so much more to your life. So much more to your life. I cannot wait for this to be over for me, and for me to just, the weight that is going to be lifted from my shoulders is going to be absolutely amazing. I'm not going to know what to do with myself after all this. I've been doing all this research for 4 years. But, I should not even be functioning, everybody. I'm in a tent by myself. I can't meet up with people. I've met up with people for, 2 years now. I shouldn't be able to function. But I am, and that's because of my mindset and my understanding of moral conscience, and me asking for strength physically and psychologically, asking to be guided, giving thanks, asking for forgiveness if there's anything I'm thinking wrong, if I'm saying anything wrong or I'm upsetting people in what I'm doing, asking for their forgiveness. That's not easy. Human reactions, they don't deserve to be forgiven. I still pray they can be, but I don't think they can be at all without full disclosure of the truth, full repentance, and a commitment to change spiritually. But I still pray for them every now and then. Anyway, thanks very much for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it. Going to be, as I said, putting the screenshots of this evidence. It's massive what I'm finding, how it ties in with Elvina Palavicini. I think that's the name, Palavicini. I probably got that completely wrong. Looking into the firmament evidence. It's massive, everyone. And what I'm going to be doing is putting the screenshots of the evidence onto here. They're probably going to suppress them. If they do, bigger fools them, because it's going to come right back at them. I can promise that. And anybody that's turned against me or deceived me and gone against the truth, anyone that works for TikTok, YouTube, or anyone else, they're all going to be facing the consequences. All right, anyone that's deliberately misguided me, tried to deceive me, that's manipulated me, anyone that hindered my investigation, anyone that has tried to make my life feel that it was going to be taken, anyone that unlawfully imprisoned me, arrested me, assaulted me, it's all going to be coming back, I believe, at them 100 times worse, unfortunately. They've all had the chance to do the right thing, and every time they're choosing to do the wrong thing. And they're just being exposed. Even through my arrest and unlawful imprisonment, I just exposed them right through that system. Acquired evidence through the prison, through the police arrests, through the emails afterwards, and it just gave me more and more evidence to expose them. And that's probably why they haven't arrested me, because they know if they put me in the cells again, they know they're going to have to literally physically silence me, and I don't think they can do that for whatever reason, or they're not doing it. So anyway, I'll keep waffling. Thanks very much, everyone. Take care of yourselves. All the best. Bye-bye. Bye. 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 Bye.